I was at a conference only at the beginning of this week, the Institute of Coding conference, and the digital skills and the shortages of digital skills for today and for the next foreseeable future is undeniably a major issue that we need to take into account. So I thought I'll say a few words about this area, what's causing it, and what potentially we can do in universities and education establishment, but also in communities and in business companies. If you look at any statistics, and I'm not going to bore you with these, they all agree that the changing landscape of the digital area is causing difficulties in catching up with the skills required. So I have been in the UK HE sector for over 30 years. I'm 36, still. And we have always been told that there is a tension between training and education. There is a tension between what businesses need today and what universities are producing in terms of graduates. So how do we make sure that the work we do with businesses does help with the gap that's out there? Some of the work we do at the University of Gloucestershire, and by the way, I didn't drive from Gloucestershire. I'm in Cheltenham during the week, but I live in Bedford, so I come home during the weekend. So that's one of the reasons why I said to Anwar, yeah, of course, no problem. No, I would have come from Germany if needed be for Anwar. I call this slide Kamal's vanity slide, because my face is there probably in more places than it should be, but it summarizes what we are doing and how we are doing it. Back in, I think, December 2016, the ex-Chancellor of the Exchequer came to Cheltenham to announce a £1.8 billion investment into cybersecurity. So I was one of 13 people who attended that meeting, and he mentioned 4 different elements of the £1.8 billion investment. One is to set up the National Cybersecurity Centre. 2 other elements are the National Cyber Innovation Centre. One will be based in London, the other one in Cheltenham, and the third one is the Institute of Coding. So I was sitting there thinking, I can see how we will be involved in the Cyber Innovation Centre in Cheltenham, probably not in the one based in London. And the Institute of Coding, that will go to large computing departments, and there are some really brilliant universities in the UK who can do that work. As it happened, we are involved in all 4 projects. And with the Institute of Coding, we lead an important piece of work on educating the educators. Because what's happening, and it's, I think, pertinent to talk about this, particularly in this building and this space, when Alan Turing in the 50s started talking about machine intelligence and artificial intelligence, and can machines think, from there to where we are today, and how we're using technology in almost everything we do during the day, had an impact on how we do things, how we do business, how we socialize, how we live our lives. But that has challenges. And a key challenge in all this is privacy and security. So the Institute of Coding is about making the UK PLC produce coders who write codes with security embedded as part of the production, rather than we create systems and then think about how do we add security as a plug-in. That's not working. We do patching here and there, and okay, of course, I say it's not working. It is working, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But the challenges are massive in the previous way of producing software and technology systems. So part of what we are doing is making sure that educators at schools, at colleges and universities who are teaching computer science, computing, or any allied discipline have this way of thinking embedded in how they teach the curriculum. The other part we are involved in, the Innovation Center. You may or may not know that there is a massive project of building a cyber park in Cheltenham, a national cyber park, and we have been leading the conversations from the academic side. So we put a group together of select universities, including Bristol, Bath, Cardiff, Oxford, Birmingham, Lancaster, Imperial, etc., to see what the academic view is about what should go in the cyber park, which is the bottom right corner from where you are. And our contribution to the park, and we are only one of two key tenants, if you like, of the park, which hasn't yet been built, but we are one of the two anchor partners in this conversation. You can guess who the other anchor organization is. It's the National Cyber Innovation Center through GCHQ. And our role is to set up a knowledge exchange facility to enable that flow of innovation in the right way, in the secure way, taking it to market, grow these businesses who create this kind of innovations, but also provide an education angle through apprenticeships and other programs. Why are we where we are in terms of the skills shortage and the skills change? How things have got to what they are? I call it the grand challenge from a digital point of view, maybe because it sounds grand. But there are three things that are happening, and most observers would agree with: the hyperconnectivity, the data tsunami, and artificial intelligence. And I'll touch on these very briefly. Every day, we create something like 2.5 quintillion of bytes of data. What's a quintillion? Can anyone guess what a quintillion? I would expect Najm to know what a quintillion is. Well, it's lots of zeros, 19 zeros. Okay, it's a lot of data. To give you an idea, in the last 2 to 3 years, we created 90% of all the data that we have today. In other words, only 10% of the data we have today was created from, humanity creation, whenever mankind was created, Adam and Eve, if you believe in Adam and Eve, until today, only 10% of data was created until the last 2 to 3 years. The rest, 90%, was created over the last 3 years. And one of the reasons that's happening because of this hyperconnectivity. And whichever statistics or prediction you believe in, we are already in 2020. Even if it is 26 billion connected devices, that's a lot of devices talking to each other. And they create opportunity for us. They are good. For example, when I was in Germany earlier this week, one advert that kept coming all the time is this remote camera. Smart, we call it smart. We stick the word smart in front of something. Not necessarily intelligent, and not as Alan Turing would define intelligence. And this smart camera, wherever you are, somewhere in a beach, you can, if someone rings a bell, you talk to them, Hi, how are you? Yeah, just drop that box there. I'll collect it later. It's nice. It's convenient. You can change your heating at home. You can open the curtains, close them remotely. What we don't often take into account is the fact that these, things, hence the word or the sentence Internet of Things, these things are connected to a network. In this case, they are connected to the network of your house. If it is a business, they are connected to a network of your business. In a business environment, we are all very, sensitive about our data, whether it's on my mobile or on my machine. When Rebecca said you could bring a USB, I said, oh, no, I will not bring a USB. It's the equivalent of shaking hands, basically, in today's era. Because I don't know, you don't know where my USB was, and I don't know where your machine was. I can trust this place, but the rule is I'm not going to use USBs. So, because we are not switched on, with regards to the other components of the network, we don't care about our camera. In fact, I attended an exhibition about 2 years ago with CCTV camera manufacturers. And I went to every stand and asked them, they're all talking about smart cameras and it can do X, Y, Z. I asked them, what advice or guidance do you give your customers about changing the password? And they went, It's almost, not something we talk about at all. And I think in the media recently there was lots of coverage of baby monitors being hacked and so on and so forth. So little things like these cause problems. And this is because of the hyper-connectivity. So the hyper-connectivity is good because I don't have to have my server here physically. I can use a cloud. Engineering, we talk about Industry 4.0, so you don't have to have all the equipment in your area. It can be scattered around the world. All that stuff is very good, and that's why we do it. Two things come with that. One, the skills or the skill set is different. And two, privacy and security are an issue. Then, of course, artificial intelligence, which is a two-edged sword. On the one hand, it gives us, lots of benefits. You could be sitting at home and someone has decided that you needed to refill your fridge with A, B, or C because the AI program looking after that, realized that that's something that needs to be done. We talked about the massive amounts of data. We talk about big data. How are we going to analyze this data? How are we going to make sense of this data? And machine intelligence or machine learning, artificial intelligence, give us tools to make sense of all that data, give us tools to make our lives better, okay? But at the same time, criminals are using machine learning, are using artificial intelligence to understand if, for example, when I walk into a supermarket, I already find a bag ready for me because my AI agent has done the work for me. So that AI agent is working with the program and working with data, which could be hackable, and therefore the criminal now knows a lot about me and can fool me to do things I'm not supposed to be doing. Phishing or spear phishing is a known means of getting into systems. In the last 2 to 3 years, I think I had at least about 500, 600 attempts. These are the ones we know about. People pretending to be me, contacting colleagues in the organization, and they are getting very good in how they pretend to be me because they know a lot about me. So now, can you imagine if AI is used to the extent that we give everything about ourselves to this machine so that it can serve us better, but that machine could be hacked by someone else. So there are, again, two areas there. One, the skills required for a graduate in machine learning today can easily earn in the 50K from the very first year, because it's a very important, in-demand set of skills. So there are skills that need to be developed in that space, but at the same time, there are other types of skills that need to be developed in the area of security. We need to be prepared, so prepared in two spaces, innovation and security. Have I pressed one too far? No. There are ways of not being prepared if we pretend that it's not happening. Then, okay, let's not bother. Either because I don't want to invest or because of some other reasons. But those who keep doing the same thing, the same time, the same way, you know what happens to them. And I think this quote is very pertinent. And it's applicable to businesses, communities, and individuals. So, for example, if in your habits you use a password, that's one word, I can hack into your system in 3 to 4 minutes using a brute force approach. It takes 3 to 4 minutes. If you use a phrase that you can remember, for example, Spurs is the best team in the UK. Sorry, Arsenal fans, sorry, I didn't say that. Then it will take me a century to hack into your system. Change your password, an easy thing. Don't do the same thing in the same way for too long, because you'll be caught. And the same set of phrase, if you keep it for 2 years, again, that's doing it for too long. So keep innovating. The dilemma of busyness. We are too busy to stop and look at what we are doing and refresh what we know and do what needs to be done. And again, this slide can be used in any thing, in any aspect of life, really. We do this quite often. And sometimes we are, our own enemy in this space. Diversity was mentioned. I would emphasize the word inclusion, probably more than diversity, because we can do the diversity bit, we can do the discourse. The actual doing of being diverse and inclusive takes a lot of courage, investment. We talked about preparedness to do it. I'll give you 2 examples. One major corporation was interviewing a group of IT specialists in a specific area. So they invited 3 or 4 people to the interview. One of them didn't turn up. So they called this person. What's happening? He said, I've never been to London and I don't know how to take the underground. Okay, you come to that space and we'll get a bus, etc. And he doesn't turn up. So they call him again. And he says, I'm really sorry, but I find London overwhelming. No worries. Excuse me. They send the interview panel to his house in Manchester. They say, the chief exec of that organization says, this person delivered 4 times what we consider a normal IT specialist would deliver. Why? Because they cared. He had some neuro difficulties. I think it's autism combined with other things. But they were patient. They had the courage to do it, the investment. So they had to go that step. If diversity means come to me within my own rules and regulations, it won't work. And I'll give you an example of own rules and regulations from my own institution. I have a PhD student who had 3 supervisors, and all 3 said, we can't do it. He has a number of medical conditions, including one called hypergraphia. I never knew what hypergraphia means. Some of you may know what hypergraphia means. If for you and I, you can describe something in 10 words, he literally needs 500 to 600 words to describe the same thing. And then you as a supervisor have to go through all those words to find the actual 10. Okay? Two problems. One, the supervisors didn't have the patience. We are a diverse community, but I don't have the patience to do this because my job is to make sure that this person delivers at that level. And the other thing, the university regulations. We can give you 10% extra in terms of word limit, but no more, because that's a PhD standard. But this is not a normal situation that you deal with. Normal as in the majority of us can cope with that. Can we do something about these rules and regulations? And as it happened, this student is now towards the end of his PhD. And hopefully, I will celebrate more than any other PhDs I've done before because of the work we're doing with this. So diversity and inclusion, it's important to have all the skills. We need everyone to work together to deliver the skills that we need for the future, for now and for the future. And the last one, we can't do it without our friends. We have to work together. I was commissioned by the Foreign Office to do a piece of research on cybersecurity public-private partnerships. And the trust element is so crucial. Either I feel I don't need you. In this space, no one should feel like that because we all need each other. Or I don't trust you enough to work with you. And in cybersecurity, you can understand there are different layers. But even within cybersecurity, we should be finding ways, and we proposed platforms to organize ourselves that would enable us to work together, because otherwise we will be in the hell scenario. We have long spoons, but we can't use them. I'll leave you with that thought. Thank you very much indeed.